A big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. It looks like we're going to get a pretty good sunrise, so it's time now. Grab a quick coffee.
Time goes by, yeah, you and I are running out, running out. Time goes by, I change.
Morning everybody, fantastic to see you all again. So as you can probably tell, I'm pretty excited, and that's because the forecast for tomorrow looks perfect for a shot that I've been trying to take for the last 2 and a bit years. And it's in the Lake District. I've just got back to the Lake District, so I've managed to get some time together, and tomorrow morning I'm going to go up to the Lake District tonight, and tomorrow morning I'm going to hike to the location where there's a certain shot that I've wanted to get. More about that in a second, but first I just want to tell you about this lens as well, because I've just got this, which is also super exciting. It's a 500mm f5.6 Nikon lens, and it's the biggest lens I've ever had. I've never had a long lens. I've always had something like a 70 to 200. I think I had a 100 to 300mm lens once, but this is an amazing lens. It's quite small. I mean, it's got the hood on, so if I just take this off, you know, it's a fairly small lens for a 500mm lens. It's meant to be really good, and it's for a project that I've got set up, which I'm also super excited about. I can't tell you that much about it, but it's a bit of a collaboration, and I'm going to be doing some quite exciting things. So more to come with that in the next few months, but I wanted to tell you about that. And then before I get on to tomorrow and tell you a little bit more about the shot that I'm hopefully going to take tomorrow, then also at the end of this video I'll announce who's won the Peak Design Slide Light strap, which is amazing, and the catcher clip. So I'll announce that at the end of the video. So let me tell you a little bit more about the shot that I want to go and take tomorrow, and the reason why I'm quite excited. So it's a couple of trees actually in a place called Homefell, which is a place that I've been going to, and I've probably been maybe 15-20 times over the last couple of years. It's a place I always go back to in Lake District. It's fantastic. There's so many great shots to take, and I've taken some good shots there like these, but I've never managed to get this particular shot that I've wanted to get ever since I found these couple of trees. In fact, there's 2 pairs of trees that I would be able to take this shot with. And what it requires is the light to be in the right location in the morning, and it also needs the trees to have the correct autumn colours on. Now I know the trees are good because I went up there this weekend, but the conditions weren't right, but the trees look super good. They're silver birch, they've just started to change, and the bracken in the foreground looks fantastic as well. So then all I needed was for the sun to be just right. And what I need for this particular shot is, if we have a look at Google Earth Pro here, then in here you can set what the sun's going to do. So I can see here that as the sun rises, then the trees that are on this bank here are going to be on the sun, but the bank in the background, so this hill in the background, is going to be in the shade. So the contrast between the trees in the sun and the background in the shade is going to look really good. Now I've taken lots of other shots of these trees, but I've never had the conditions of the trees and the bracken right. So to get all those things right is really difficult, because the leaves are only perfect on a tree for around about 10 days. So I've got to have a perfect sunrise with no wind, you know, within that 10-day period, and be able to get there. And it just happens that tomorrow I think it's all going to come together. So I'm going to go and pack my things and get to the Lake District, and fingers crossed. Right, made it. So didn't do a lot of video on the way up just because it's dark. It looks like we're going to get a pretty good sunrise, so it's time now. Oh, so I've got a few minutes just to grab a quick coffee. Oh. So it's a perfect clear day, and quite often this isn't the best time to do landscape photography because you don't have any of that dramatic sky. But what I want to do today is quite specific really, because I've come here with the purpose of trying to get some backlit silver birch. and it's perfect conditions to do that because I'm going to get the low golden sun hitting the silver birch, and then the background of the silver birch is going to be in shadow because the sunrise is just over here. So I've shot some silver birch here before, I know roughly where they are, so I've got a good idea, and it's just a question of just biding my time really and waiting to get that right moment to get some really beautiful light. Now the temptation is to shoot in the other direction because there's a beautiful scene in the other direction. It's more of a grand vista, but I want to stick to what I've come for, so I'm going to concentrate on just picking out some of the detail of these amazing silver birch down here. The coffee, I think, and I got here nice and early, which is good, but it's chilly, first cold day. So I've ended up hiking down quite a bit because it's just all about getting the separation right between the trees and the trees behind them and then the trees behind them. So I just want to create that separation just perfect. So I've ended up on the sort of a side of a hill really, which is not the easiest place to stand, but I think it's going to get something good. So what I've got is I've got my FUJI 50 to 140 lens on my X-T3, and getting some nice glow just coming over. So the glow that's sort of reflected down is like this sort of blue colour, which is really, really nice. So in the shadows. And then it's just a question of waiting now for the sun to rise, and then it's going to hit these trees. Now I suspect it's probably going to be 30 minutes after sunrise, but by being here set up, it's just a waiting game, and really trying hard not to, veer into other things that aren't going to make this a better photo. What I want to do is concentrate on one thing, getting this photo right. So as you can see, the sun's come out now and it's looking fantastic, backlighting these two trees. So it's exactly what I imagined it to be like. And then the trees behind them have sort of got this blue feeling to them because they're in the shade, but there's still sort of a glow coming across them. So I'm really, really pleased with it. I've come a little bit lower now, so the shot that I think is going to work is higher up. I've come a little bit lower to try and sort of separate the trunks at the bottom a little bit more from the background. And because I'm a bit closer now as well, I'm going to shoot with my 24-70 on my Nikon as well as my FUJI. I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference really, because my FUJI is perfectly capable of getting a good shot, but it's good to have both. And then there's some shots in that direction. So when I've got this shot, there's some more shots in that direction, which I'll turn the camera around in a minute and show you, where the sun's just coming across. It's almost backlit, and that looks pretty good as well. What a morning, it's fantastic. A few things you've got to look out for when you're doing backlit shots like this. The first is try and find a dark background that you can put your backlit subject against. Then you want to make sure that your backlit subject is a good composition, is a good subject. You don't want clutter that's going to draw the eye, and in this case that's what I've got. So these 3 or 4 trees here look okay, but on the bottom right can you see that there's there's sort of clutter, and it just looks a bit heavy and it doesn't look balanced, the image. So, sometimes it's good to go really close and get really intimate and just get the leaves or a branch. Sometimes if you can get a whole tree, it's good, but you need to make sure it's super simple because it makes a big difference. If you can get a shot that's simple and just looks nice and easy on the eye, then that's what's going to look best. Don't just think the backlit light, that beautiful light going through the leaves, is all that you need. You still need really good composition. But if you get it right, it can be amazing. Oh. That was a bit of a hectic morning. I always find sunrises the most beautiful, and I finally get my best shots, but the most hectic, because you arrive in the dark, you can't really quite see the scene, and then it presents itself, and then you're running around trying to get a shot. Whereas at sunset, you can find your composition and then wait for the light. But it's good to know a location for sunrise, which I do here. Just a few other things with shooting backlit subjects. Ideally, you want the sun maybe not directly behind it, but just slightly off to the side by maybe 10-20 degrees, and then make sure you use your lens hood, and also make sure your lens is super clean. So if lens hood can't stop any of the sun rays coming in, then if your lens is really clean, then you're less likely to get any flaring. I also make sure I've not got any filters on as well. I'm not a great believer in UV filters. I just think you buy this expensive bit of glass, don't put anything on it unless you have to. And they're hard coated. They've got hard coatings on the glass. So the final thing, whilst I'm just talking about filters, is a polarizing filter. It's really tempting to use a polarizing filter, especially when you're shooting, and it's hazy and you've probably got a bit of haze. But you've got to remember the polarizing filter works best at 90 degrees to the sun. So if you shoot it into the sun, it's probably not going to have an effect. It might reduce some of that haze, but quite often I find that you want to add that to add to the drama of the shot, and in this case, a polarizer wouldn't have been the right thing. So I would say don't use a polarizer when you're doing backlit shots, unless you've maybe got a wet leaf or something, and you're just doing some close-up or intimate detail where you want to reduce the reflections of that leaf. But then it's probably not going to work quite as well as you expect. Well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's time for a coffee, I think.
You keeping busy, always things to do. Our situation still undecided.
So I'm back, and what a successful trip that was. I was so pleased. You could see at the end of the video that I was pleased. I got it. The light just worked exactly how I wanted. The leaves were turned and just look really good on the trees. I've got the photos here, and we'll go through those in a minute. But I just wanted to say that how important it is to do something like this, and how important it is that when you do something, you plan something like that, to try and stick to your original objective. Now, there are going to be times, obviously, where you do change from that, but I feel like I got a better shot because I was just concentrating on this one shot, and just finding the exact conditions for this one shot, rather than thinking, oh, there might be a good shot over there or a good shot over there. And I did talk a little bit about why some other trees didn't work in that shoot, but that was after I'd completely finished. I'd totally finished that, and really I wasn't going to get a good shot there because the light wasn't great by that point of the day. That was really scouting a little bit for the next time I go back. I'm going to be interested, actually, and I'll post it on Instagram, so make sure you follow me on my Instagram. But I'll post a shot next week of the trees as well, because I'll be back there. I'm running a workshop in the Lake District, so I'll definitely be back there. And I'll post another shot. It'll be interesting to see how much that tree's changed. I think a lot of the leaves will have gone from it now, and that's just in a week's time. Anyway, let's go and have a look at these photos. There's two of them, a landscape and a portrait one, and I can talk to you in a little bit more detail about them. Okay, so here are the two photos. I'm going to show you this one first. So this is the one that I took with my FUJI X-T3 in portrait, obviously. So this was earlier on. So this was when the sun had just got over the top of the hill and just started to hit all the trees. Now, there are a few things on this that I like more than the other one, and a few things on the other shot that I like more than this. I've obviously got both of these shots in landscape and portrait as well. So I think that the leaves are just so well backlit, and actually the light on the silver birch as well is is catching some of the reflected light from the ferns sort of back into it, so it's lighting up the silver birch as well, and the rim lighting just looks so good. So I'm really pleased about that. Now I focused on the silver birch and I had it around about f4. I think this was around about 100mm. I'll put the exact settings up now, but you can see that the trees in the background are still in focus. Ideally, I'd wanted those slightly more out of focus. So I think if I took the shot again, if I ever have the chance, then I'll probably go down to f2.8 because I'd still get everything that I wanted to in focus. Now you can see that at the bottom here there's a little bit of out of focus, and but everything's just fantastic. In terms of editing, I reduced the saturation slightly of the background green just by doing a selective mask, a colour luminosity mask, just on the background green. I did that in Lightroom, and the leaves just look so fantastic. I'm so pleased with these. So I really like it. I really feel like it captures the mood of the morning. You know, this warmth, yet it was a really quite cold morning, so it captures that really well. I'm really, really pleased with this, and yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think the one I prefer is the next one, which was later on though. But I have to admit, I keep going to and from which one I like most. So I'll show you both and see what you think. I'd love to know in the comments which you like most. So this one is the one that I took with my Nikon. This was a little bit later, so probably about another 30 minutes later. So you could see that I had a lot of sunlight coming in from the left-hand side here. The sun is just up here, and it's lighting up the silver birch. I had a bit more in the landscape. You obviously get a bit more of the ferns, which looks so good. The green and the orange in the ferns at this time of year, early autumn, I just think looks fantastic. So I really like that. I really like that on this one, I've got a little bit more of this background. So I'm sort of, you know, because I'm slightly wider with my shot, I think this is around about 65, 70mm. I had my 24 to 70 on my Nikon. The other thing I'd say just before I carry on is that you can't tell any difference at this size, so this is an A2 print, between the Fuji and the Nikon. You can't. It's just impossible to tell any difference. You have to go bigger to be able to differentiate the difference between the two resolutions of camera. So with this one, I really like that I've got more trees in, so I can pick out all these silver birches in the background as well, and the evergreen trees as well. But yeah, I've got a similar type of look on these trees here, and yeah, it just looks fantastic. On this one, I played a little bit with this orange here, so I've actually toned it down a little bit because I felt it was too strong and it was pulling your eye a little bit. I think I might play with cropping it a little bit as well. But what I'm going to do is this week I'm going to add one of these two to my portfolio. I definitely think that they deserve to go on my portfolio of shots. So I'll be offering that as an additional print on my portfolio of shots. And I don't often do that. I don't often update it. And I think it's going to be a strong contender for next year's calendar as well. So these are the two shots. Yeah, I really like them. I think, you know, there's different things about both of them, but I was really pleased with the outcome of the shoot that morning, and yeah, I just what a day. It just doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. So okay, just grab these. So I've got the capture camera clip and the slide light from the video that I published a few weeks ago, and I'll tell you who the winner of those is in 1 second. I just want to say a little bit about the sponsor of this week's video, which is Squarespace. Now I know that you probably know a lot about Squarespace because I talk about it all the time, but what you might not know is that Squarespace also allow you to really easily find a domain and get a domain. So for instance, if I wanted to find a domain for a website for Pebbles, for instance, then I could go and search and see how easy it is to look up what domains are available. You can get .com, .co.uk and all the other suffixes to the domains, and then when you're happy with it, you can buy that domain, and it's really easy to then attach that to a website. You don't have to worry about the technical details of it. Squarespace does it all for you. And And I'm passionate about that. I used to develop websites myself in IT. I know all about how difficult it can be if you're using something like WordPress or something else. You can do good things, but you need to have a lot of technical knowledge. But with Squarespace, you don't. You can set up a domain, you can build your own site. There's 24-hour support. It's a really, really good solution. So, if you are thinking about getting a website, then make sure you go to squarespace.com. And if you're ready for a trial, then you can get 10% off at /Nigel or using the offer code Nigel. Okay, so the winner of these two, you had to just put a comment in and make sure you subscribe. So I selected all the subscribed comments, and then my daughter picked one, and the winner is Brian Green. So Brian, if you contact me, I'll send these out to you. And I'm going to have some more giveaways as well over the next few weeks, so keep a lookout for that. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching, and until next Sunday, bye.